Hi, it's Keith. Welcome back to Life Journey Production Studios. I'm going to do a behind the scenes today, look at our podcast. This is what the studio was set up originally for, and I also do live streaming and videos in here. But you can see our set here over the shoulder, or here's the camera shot. I can bring in picture in picture, so I can talk to you just for a minute, but that's our shot. We have a bar that goes over the bottom, and we'll be zooming in just a touch when we get ready to go here and checking all the lighting. You're going to get a chance to see some behind the scenes, hopefully some laughter, as well as some clips of our podcast last year in our dining room and this year in the studio. I'm going to be using the Rodecaster Pro to record the audio as well as mix the audio. And then I also am feeding it into the ATEM Mini Pro. And we are actually recording in the ATEM Mini Pro. That's what I'm using right now. We're using channel 1. And then we have pod mics on the table that you can see. And then I have the SM7B by Shure, and it's a great vocal microphone. And I will actually be in the podcast, though. During the podcast, you won't have this view. Just when we're talking about the behind the scenes stuff, we have this view. So we'll go back to this camera view and wrap this little intro up. And I hope you enjoy some behind the scenes look as we discuss and prep for the podcast. Then when we come back after a few clips of the podcast, we're doing 2 today. I want to talk to you about how we distribute the podcast, how we edit it, its audio and video, and how that all comes together. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
And that's a home visit.
Okay, this is going to be just a little behind the scenes of my on my channel for us getting ready for the podcast. So again, this first, we're doing 2 today. So sorry, I'm got my back turned to the camera. So this is more about birth. We're getting ready to record 2 podcasts here, and we're going to talk just a little bit about the pre-setup here before we go into a recording. So this list is for me.
Yeah, the first one we're going to do is our mock consult. So consultation with a midwife.
Okay.
We offer a free 1-hour consultation, and these are a lot of the common questions that are asked. So we're going to answer your questions, and you're going to be the dad at the consult asking these questions and any others that you come up with.
And then is like, are one of you guys going to kind of take the role of the wife? So it's more from a woman's perspective?
Nope, we're both going to just be the midwife.
Okay, so I get to play the woman and the man.
No, you're just a dad.
You're
just a dad.
Don't get too excited, Keith.
Sorry, guys. It's always like this. So, and then what's this about Ron and...
No, don't bring up Ron.
Okay, so... So you don't want
Don't
that.
bring up
You
Ron.
don't want that on my channel.
Everyone wants to know now about Ron.
Ron the Puerto Rican. So it's
My
a funny
husband
story.
couldn't remember the name of this Puerto Rican guy that we were trying to remember the name
Sorry,
of
guys.
that was a speaker at church every year. And he kept going, what is his name?
I was racking my brain and I can only think of
Ron.
this one guy I
and
met.
I lost it. I was like, Ron.
All the Puerto Ricans that are
Yeah.
named Ron.
Maybe Enriquez.
Yeah, right.
Ron, but
Evidently,
Ron, the Puerto Rican?
my
No.
wife felt like I insulted all Puerto Ricans out there, so I apologize. That is probably not
Public apology.
Public apology.
Okay, we'll be serious now.
Okay, so what we
Why?
normally do,
Why?
guys, what we normally do is we have a discussion, kind of talking about the podcast, and then we'll roll our intro. I'll show you the intro here
write
on the
down the
channel,
name of
and then we're going to come back during the
pants.
break, and at the end, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we release this. So here we go. Let's get the picture.
I thought you were going to write down Ron. Why? You going to forget his name?
This podcast is intended for educational purposes only. For our full disclosure, visit nc-midwifery.com. welcome back to another episode of More About Birth here with our hosts, Shannon Bennett and Angie Hansen.
You bring to the room, Shannon.
I don't want to go first. I know how it is.
Well, we finished the first podcast, and here is a clip.
Yeah. So we're going to have Keith be the dad today, and we are going to do a mock prenatal consult. So we offer a free prenatal consult up to an hour for people interested in finding out about home birth and our services. So, Keith?
I should be able to pull this off because I am a dad.
You am a dad.
And I have been at a birth.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while.
Out of your mind, though.
Okay. You want me to...
You haven't been at a birth before.
Okay.
You know nothing.
Put the right cap on.
So this is our listeners that are out there wondering about this type of birth.
Right. Like,
okay.
And what does a consult look like, you know?
Okay.
What questions do I ask?
So can I ask one right now?
Yeah,
we
go
should
for
have
it.
brought our consult sheet.
Yeah, I tell you, this is probably one of the ones that I thought about most about a home birth, and that is a home birth safe? So now what I will be doing with that podcast is recorded on my little scan disc on my ATEM Mini Pro. I'll be using that. I don't have any graphics or anything on it. I'll be bringing that into Adobe Premiere, and I'll show you that here shortly. We're between the first podcast and the second one. The hosts and hostess are changing, and we're getting ready for another podcast. That way we can get 2 done. They come out every 2 weeks, and we can distribute them every couple weeks. So we'll also use some of the time in between and before and after to brainstorm what we thought. We actually stopped in the middle of that first podcast and talked about the movement of it and just needed to get some more life in it. So I'm actually going to be editing in some extra questions I asked back when we were talking about water birth. So anyway, that's kind of how the podcast goes. It's being recorded on my Rodecaster Pro. So I have the wave audio versions that I can actually bring in. I also have the stereo track recorded right with the video in the ATEM Mini Pro. And usually I use that. So anyway, stay tuned. We'll show you a little bit more behind the scenes of video and audio podcasts. And then we'll come back and talk about how the whole thing goes together and gets distributed. Okay, so I'm back here with my wife and her co-host, Angie. And I want to talk to you guys just real quick. So, ladies.
Yo.
So what was the biggest, for you guys, what was the biggest challenge that you faced in launching this podcast?
The time involved.
Deciding what to wear.
Topics, lining up the speakers.
And so is there a lot of difference between just doing an audio podcast and doing a video podcast?
Yes.
Enormously.
Yes.
Okay, like in what, Angie?
If you have a time constraint, I'd say start with the audio podcast.
Yeah, you can do it in your pajamas from your couch. I actually
You don't
have
have
to
to have
think
makeup
about
on.
getting ready and...
So do you think it makes a difference, though, when you're actually on a set and you have a video camera in front of you? Do you think it elevates your game, or does it distract?
I think it's more of a hindrance, honestly.
Personally, but I think for the watchers.
No, it's fun. I think it's worth it. I'm just saying for the people doing it, for me,
Right.
it takes a lot more
It's
energy
a lot more
than
effort.
just an audio.
So FYI, I'm going to play a clip of a blooper, right, for the audience that has you guys just an audio with a still image. And I'm going to play one with a video image, and I'm going to ask my audience on my channel, did they like the video version of the humor better than the audio version?
Well, sure,
And so,
they would.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Some people, I think, they can use their imagination of
I
how
just
you're
know,
laughing.
I think it depends on your target audience, because our target audience is new moms and moms with young
they're
children.
going to be audio listeners.
They can stuff
Right.
a phone in their pocket with earbuds in and go about their business and listen.
Right.
Or create.
they're-
We know a mom with 4 kids that has her own podcast, and she creates it in the morning in her jammies.
In her closet where it's quiet.
Yeah. So that's just
So
easy. That's plug and
flexibility.
go.
Remember, they just watched your podcast.
All right.
Come on, do it.
Cheers!
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas!
You just threw that in front of her shirt. That was great. That was great, baby. Well, you're done.
We can't take it
I love
Happy
this.
2020! Christmas.
Merry Christmas, baby. Yeah.
Awesome.
Can we please take a close-up picture of what's happening on Keith's floor under his desk. Like, it looks like a jungle explosion.
Yeah,
of
it's just
cords
because, and I think
plugins.
most of the people know
Crazy.
there's wires. I have power for all 3 of my cameras. I have 2 lights above me. There's just lots and lots of cables.
That's like an electric explosion waiting to happen.
Yep.
Well, there's a little behind the scenes. You've heard from our host and hostess on More About Birth. So check that out on that channel as well. And there's samples of that. And so we're going to do our second podcast now. I'm recording again on the Rodecaster Pro and feeding audio into the ATEM Mini Pro and obviously recording video as well. So that's it. And we'll come back after this next little segment and we'll actually talk about how we put it all together to release it. So stay tuned.
When they don't float like fish and you can't catch.
Slippery little sucker.
Is that why you have to buy multiple nets? Sorry, folks. This is what I was afraid of when we said we were going to do this podcast.
Oh boy.
My goodness. You can actually hear me on that podcast trying to get some control and lead you guys on, and you just continue to go down that path. Those are amazing moments.
What can I say? What can I say?
So there was that segment that she picked. And a lot of people picked that podcast. Some people weren't specific about when. But the popularity of that podcast, based on people's responses, it was amazing. So I'm really... Okay, we are going to break down the release process. So we've done the recording in the studio. I like what I heard. I don't do my intros or my outros, but I do roll the intro video and the outro video. It already has music on it. And then I do a dissolve to the girls here in the studio. And they have a monitor that's right behind me right now in this shot that twists around so you can see it from the table and show them the program view. And you can see the program view right now over my shoulder. It's kind of the infinite look. And I can continue to have a program view in front of me because I have 2 HDMI outs now on the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, which we have in the studio now. So let's go back to multi-view for the screen behind me. And then that's their podcast behind us. That's actually the podcast I already released. That's the one we're going to look at. So I'm going to go back in time and look at some of the editing here right now. Premiere Pro. So this is the final 4K rendering I did, and you can see it with all of the graphics. I want to go back and show you the video footage that I shot here in the studio with no editing, and then I'm going to add the graphics to it, and I'll show you how I do that.
All right, so for labor, this sounds very simple and silly. If I can get this out of here.
Ooh, we got our Mary Poppins box down
Mary
here.
Poppins bag.
Hey, that fits our theme.
Oh, yeah.
You mean the...
Same actress.
Oh, theme.
Our favorite things.
Yeah.
Good old-fashioned hot water bottle. This is easily disinfected, can go to the hospital with you, can be used at home.
Can be hot or cold.
Yep, you can put ice in it and water if you want something cold. Hot water if you want it hot. And this feels really good on the low back. Feels great on the low tummy during labor. It's great postpartum for cramping or for tailbone pain. It's also great when you get those afterbirth chills and you can just snuggle up to it or wrap your feet around it. It's a simple little thing, but honestly, everyone should have a hot water bottle for pregnancy and birth.
Yep.
Okay, well, there you saw the whole before and after. So you can tell that the shot that I took, I zoom in just a touch, and I also add the graphics to hide the part of the table, this part of the table right here. And I'm trying to get them as high in the frame as I can. So I use that graphic to kind of hide the table, and it's just a great place to do those graphics. So let's take a look at how all this goes together. So here is the 4K version rendered here on my screen in Adobe Premiere. Let me go forward. So this is completed. So there is the completed podcast with all the graphics on it and the render, and then that's put up on YouTube. The original is right here. So I want to show you kind of how that goes together. This is the intro video right here you've already seen. And then if I remove these layers one at a time, this layer right here obviously is our video layer, and you got a couple edits right in here. There's an edit. The rest of it's pretty well all the way through from the beginning to the end. I'll remove these layers one at a time. Go to the actual video, bring that back up. So there's layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, layer 5. And then obviously that's the video, leaving just the audio. So that's what it looks like without all those layers. And here is what it looks like with all those layers. So the nice thing about Adobe Premiere is it lets me work on the video, and I do the audio at the same time of the video. So let me show you what I do to the audio. So I'm already running through the Rodecaster Pro. So I check the audio from the Rodecaster Pro as I'm working with the girls right behind me, and you've seen clips. I'm sitting right here. I do all the voiceover. I'm a part of their podcast right here. And so I'm going to show you how I do the audio real quick. So let me cut back to this camera. So if you go up to the audio settings up here on the top, click on audio, it's going to open up this audio screen, and it usually opens up to this, and then there's a little icon that you click on the top left here. See this little down arrow? If I click on that, this is usually how it opens up under the audio folder. Then you click on this, and it gives you your ability to add effects. So what I do originally is I play it, make sure I know what the master channel is, that I'm on channel 1, and then that's where I want to add the effects. And so I'm adding a de-esser right here and working on the settings. You can see that running for education. And that's a high voice de-esser. It doesn't de-ess for my voice. I can do that in the podcast. So I do that in my Rodecaster Pro. Then I have, turn this off. Then I have a parametric EQ, and this is a preset for vocal enhancing. And then I do my own adjustments in that. And I have a preset for that. I'll reload later. And then I do a deverb, gets rid of a little bit of the room purposes reverberation. For our full disclosure, and you can see that it's actually taking some of this low-end reverberation out of the room. But when you get into the podcast audio, it's really dealing with the room sounds. Okay. So it's really important that you choose how you're editing the audio. And so again, I have multi-band compressor. I add a little compression, mainly for my wife's voice, because we seem to lose it in the podcast. And when that's all done, when I go to render the video under the editing folder, I go up here to File, Export. In Adobe Premiere, here is the media pool built into Adobe Premiere, and then I can choose what I want to do. I hit render, send it to where I want right here. And when that's done, I get the 4K version, which is right here. I'll watch it one more time. And then I go to work on the still image. So here's the still image in Adobe Illustrator. I bring this into Lightroom, and I make some final adjustments in Lightroom. This is a still image that I got right from the media pool. And the way I do that is, let me bring up that software for you. Right here in the media pool, I can take a picture. So watch the screen right here. So I'm going to wave at the camera and picture in picture. Here's the little capture button right here. And that's what I had the girls do. And there popped up the picture right there. That's the picture I just took. So you bring the still image in, add these graphics just simply by clicking on that to make text. Click on this to make a box. You can choose what color I want to fill it with. Make the fonts. Size the box. Add a shadow under effects. There you go. And then I would lay this right here over top. That we just designed. Go up to File, Export. When you do a JPEG for YouTube, you actually get the option. I'll change this to JPEG. And we'll do sample. I love it because you get the options to change the resolution, and I've need to set it at 7 to get it to work on YouTube. Click OK. So now we have the video rendered. Now we have the graphic. How do we get the audio? So let's go back to Adobe Premiere. I would right click on the 4K, edit in Adobe Audition. Adobe Audition is going to open up here for me. So there's the audio. I'm going to sweep across it and get rid of some of these high peaks. I've already done that. But I would go up here to effects. I'd go down here to amplitude compression and choose the hard limiter. And then I can see how high these peaks are. These are all kind of been chopped off. So I had it set at 1.7. I hit apply. And then the last step is I want to go down to this folder. You have effects rack where I could add effects if I wanted to, but I want to do a loudness setting. I'm going to choose this loudness setting right here in the drop-down menu. I'm going to set this at -18 and a peak, true peak at -1.3. I have true peak set. I'm going to drag the file down into this window and then hit run. And you're going to see it's going to run it through a test to see what the loudness is, and it'll adjust it to the loudness that I set. Couple seconds. You can see the graph here. So it's done. So let me shut off picture in picture. Right over here is where you choose how you want to put the data on the MP3. And then right here, I'll post the link. I'll copy in the link to my wife's podcast page on her website. If you want to check that out, it's at nc-midwifery.com. And then you'll see there's a podcast page. So I'll copy that link and paste it right here. Then I'm going to go up to File, Export, File. I'm going to choose MP3 right here. 192 bits. You can change that right here. This is plenty high enough resolution. And I'm going to tell it where I want it to go, and I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to take those files, and I'm going to bring those files into Libsyn, which is where we host the website, and we're going to take a look at that right now. So this is the Libsyn site, and I'm not going to break down all the things you do. Just real quickly, these are the release locations that my wife's podcast goes to right here. And you have to add each one of these. You got to set up a relationship with each one of these sites and go through their approval process. And then once it's turned on, it goes out to those locations every single time, including our landing page. I have it go out directly to Facebook. The still looks like this right here. I go right here and add new episode. First thing I do is add a media file. Click on that. Click on populate the ID3. That's the stuff that I put in, the MP3 information, before I rendered it from a WAV file in Adobe Audition to a MP3. So it's going to bring all that information in. I'm going to click this upload button. I need to pick where that location is. So we're going to go to NC Midwifery, my More About Birth folder. Let's see. And here is the file that I uploaded. So I click on that, hit open, and it will populate in here. I go in here. I don't change the artwork every week. It's already preset. I set up every season separately, and that'll be in another video. I schedule it right here under basic. Set a new release date, and I'll choose what day I want it right here on the calendar and what time. It's always a Tuesday, and it's always every other week. And then I set this for 7 a.m. I hit save after I've put in all the details in the podcast right here. And then I have to put separate details under the Apple podcast. They have their own criteria. Basic information about the podcast, basic information about the title, and same here. Then I go down right here and hit publish. It would go over here into scheduled for release. I don't have anything scheduled for release. It's already released. But if I go previously published, it gives me all of her podcasts previously published right here. And I could play those and listen to them. And I can go into the settings and change anything. And it'll update those podcasts wherever they are on any station. So I could change the graphic, and it's going to go out to the world once I publish it, which is a really cool tool about Libsyn. Lots of information, what we're doing here with the video version and a YouTube version. You don't have to use Libsyn. You can choose your own landing site, but I upload one file to Libsyn and then set it all up so that it goes out, time it, and it goes out to all those locations. Hit play. And the girls are over there. That podcast is live right now on social media. You can Google More About Birth Shannon Bennett, and you will find that podcast and her channel on YouTube. And you can also go to my wife's website, nc-midwifery.com. There you go. Go to our podcast page. And here's her latest audio podcasts right here. Keep scrolling down, and you have her podcast right there. You could hit play or play any of her other podcasts. They're all right here. And you can go listen to it right here on Google Podcast. You can go right here to Spotify. You can go right here to Stitcher. And you can go right here to Apple Podcasts and listen to the audio versions of my wife's podcast right here. And there is her podcast on Apple Podcast. And you can subscribe to it right there on her channel. So that's it for this video on a video audio podcast. My name is Keith, and we want to thank you for stopping in. And we hope that you'll check out the next video as well. So chocolate's okay at More About Birth.
Chocolate's great. We
It's more
probably
than
will
okay.
not do a podcast without chocolate and coffee.
Yeah.
What about the tea people out there?
The what people?
The tea.
The tea people, we still love them. I think we're still going to love them.
What are tea people?
No, you know what? Midwives by
What's a
nature
tea
have
people?
to like tea because some people call them herbs, but we use our herbs in all
tea,
sorts
like
of...
the kind you drink.
It's all right. She really knows what she's talking about.